Now that you've installed the WooCommerce plugin, you're probably ready to begin building your online store. Before we actually begin adding products, I wanted to quickly review some of the WooCommerce settings with you. These can be accessed by going to the WooCommerce menu item and going to Settings. We're not going to change many of the settings here, but it is important to review them so that you're familiar with where you can find these things and where you can augment them based on the needs of your store. It is important to note that everyone's needs and requirements are going to be different, so you need to do your research and find out what you're responsible for in regards to taxes and shipping based on your area and the products that you're going to be selling. I can't really tell you which settings that you're going to need, as they're going to be unique based on the type of store and the type of products that you're going to carry in your store. But this will give you an overview of where you can find these things and what sort of changes you will be able to make. Once you go into the settings area, you'll notice that there's quite a few tabs that are available. This is where you can get to the various settings for different features that you can customize in your store. The general options are going to allow you to set general settings for your online store. Some of these things are going to be pre-populated based on what you entered when you installed the plugin. However, if you ever need to change these things, you'll need to know where to find them. Under the general options, you can set your base location. I'm in California, so I'm going to leave this as is. Next, you're going to want to set your selling location. The selling location is where you can specify where you're going to be selling from. By default, this is set to sell to all countries. Because I'm selling food, I don't want to sell to all countries, so I'm going to specify sell to specific countries. When I do that, I get another field where I can specify the different countries. You have a list of countries, or you could simply start typing and get to the country that you wish to sell to. You can add more than one country here if necessary, but I'm just going to sell in the United States. The shipping location is where you can specify where you want to ship to. If this is different from the countries that you're selling to, you're going to want to set this here. I'm going to leave it at ship to all countries you sell to. Since I'm only selling in the United States, that will work for me. The default customer location is where you can specify what you want to have displayed for the customer location. I prefer to use geolocate, and this will populate the information based on the customer's location. Obviously, you can set this to any of the other settings if they pertain to what you're doing. I'm going to leave enable taxes checked. And for store notice, you can enable a site-wide store notice. We're going to leave this blank for now, but I'll show you what this looks like later on. Currency options are where you can specify how you want the currency displayed. If you are not selling in the United States or selling to another country, you may need to alter the currency option display settings. But for me, these are fine, so I'm going to leave these as is. If you do make any changes to this setting, it's important to click Save Changes so that the changes are saved. The next tab that we have is the Products tab. This tab lets you choose settings and options for your products. Once you click the Products tab, you'll notice that you actually have subcategories available here. We'll start with General. This is where you can set the weight and dimensioned units. I'm going to leave these as is. You can also choose to have reviews and ratings available on your website. This is up to you whether you want this to be included in your store. If you didn't want to, you could uncheck these, but I'll leave these as is. The display area is going to let you define the shop page. If you didn't want to use the default shop page, you could pick a different shop page. We're going to leave this at shop though. The shop page display is where you can specify if you want to show products, show categories, or show products and categories. We'll be discussing these things later on, but for now I'm going to leave this at show products. The default category display is also something that you can specify. Again, I'm going to leave this at the default. You can also specify how you want the products sorted, and you can specify your add to cart behavior. If you want to redirect to the cart page after they've successfully added a product, you'll check here. I'm going to leave this checked as enable Ajax add to cart buttons because I like the way that this works better. The product image section is important, and you're going to want to check the theme that you're using and verify that the product image sizes are going to work with the theme that you've chosen. I'm going to leave these at the defaults, but if you needed to change these, you would simply type in new numeric values. Inventory is where you can specify how you want WooCommerce to manage your inventory. If you want WooCommerce to enable stock management, make sure this is checked. This will go ahead and keep stock of any low stock or out of stock products that you may or may not have. The hold stock minutes is how long you will allow stock to be held once someone has placed it into their cart. By default, it's set to 60 minutes. I'm going to change this to 30 minutes. If the limit is reached and the person has not paid for the order, then the order is canceled. I'm going to actually uncheck enable low stock notifications and enable out of stock notifications. Since my stock isn't something that's physically stored, it's something that's created, this isn't going to be something that will pertain to my store. The notification recipients is the email address that this information will be emailed to. If this email should be something other than the default email that you set up when you installed WordPress, you need to change it here. You can also specify values for low stock threshold or out of stock threshold. You can also choose whether you want your products to be hidden if they're out of stock. This will automatically remove them from your online store if the stock gets to be down to 0. You can also choose if you want to show the stock amount. This will actually list how much of something you have. I'm going to click Never Show Stock Amount because this is something that doesn't pertain to me. I'll click Save Changes to update the changes. Downloadable Products is the section where you can specify what you want to have happen if you're selling downloadable material. The File Download Management is where you can set how you want downloadables to be handled. Force download and XXL redirect are best if you want to ensure that somebody can't simply just give someone else a URL where they can download the product. Redirect only would allow someone to only need to have the URL. I'm going to choose the second option, XXL redirect X send file, as I will add one downloadable product to my store so we can talk about how this works. You can also set the restrictions on access. If you click Downloads Require Login, a user will have to be logged in order to download something. If you do check this, your user will not be able to make a guest purchase. They'll have to actually log in to complete the purchase. You can also choose to grant access to downloadable products after payment. If you did want to have some sort of waiting period or you wanted to email the person, you would want to uncheck this, but I'll leave these as is. I'm going to click Save Changes. The Tax tab is a very crucial and complicated section of your online store. Here is where you're going to define the tax-related options for your website. As I mentioned earlier, I can't really tell you what to do here. You're going to want to check with your accountant and with your tax advisor so that you are charging the correct tax rates for your area and for your products. A couple options, though, that are important is you're going to want to specify whether you're entering the prices inclusive of tax or exclusive of tax. Normally in the US, we see prices exclusive of tax, but in some countries, tax is included in the price. You need to choose which option is best for you. You can automatically have your store calculate tax based on the customer shipping address or one of these other options. I'll leave this a customer shipping address. The shipping tax class is going to be based on either cart options, standard, reduced rate, or 0 rate. These settings are settings that are specified within your tax tab. You can actually create your own custom settings here if you need to. The rest of the options are going to pertain to how you want tax displayed on your store. The other tabs in this area allow you to customize and modify the various rates that you're going to be entering into your store. When I set up my store, I set up my store as California. So my default rate is going to be 7.5%, which is the tax in California. However, California has different tax rates based on the city that you're in. I would need to insert additional rows that would specify taxes for the various cities that someone might be buying or selling from. I will provide some additional information that you can read up on based on the tax rates that you might want to use. These additional tabs allow you to specify reduced rate rates and zero rate rates. If this is something that's applicable to your store, you're going to want to fill out this area. I'm going to move on to the shipping option. Under the shipping tab, the first screen that you're going to get is where you can set up your shipping zones. Shipping zones are geographic regions that you ship your goods to. You can contain multiple shipping methods and rates that apply to every region. Let's look at how we can set up some shipping zones. I'm going to go ahead and add a shipping zone by clicking this button at the bottom of this page. It's going to take me to my shipping zone page. This is where I can specify a zone name and a region. My zone name is going to be Southern California. The regions that are within this area are going to be California, but I'm going to limit California based on specific zip postcodes. So I'm going to specify that I'll ship to any postcode that is between 9,000 and 9,300. This will be my Southern California zone. I'm going to click Add Shipping Zone to add a new shipping zone. This is going to be the rest of California. And I'll just generically specify California for this one. I'm going to click Save Changes, and now you can see that I've added 2 zones. If you want to add shipping methods, you can click the plus sign right here, and this is going to allow you to specify a shipping method that you wish to add. You can choose flat rate, free shipping, or local pickup. I'm going to go ahead and choose flat rate, and I'm going to add this as a shipping method. If I want to specify the rate, I click on the name flat rate, and then I can come in here and I can specify if I want this to be taxable and the cost. I'm going to say flat rate dash SoCal, and if you're in Southern California, the flat rate is going to be $250. I'm going to save changes. Then I'm going to go back into the shipping zones, and I'm going to specify the rest of California. So I'll click my plus sign. I'm going to include a flat rate here as well, but I'm going to increase the flat rate. I'm going to have the flat rate be $4 if you're in the rest of California, if you're farther from where I am. And I'll save the changes. If I go back to shipping zones, you can see that I've specified this. I'm going to add one more shipping zone, and this is going to be San Diego. The regions in this zone are going to be US, and I'm going to limit to specific zip codes. Then I'll click Save Changes. If you're within the 9211 area, I'm going to offer free shipping, and I'll click Add Shipping Method. So you can see I've set up several different zones. The rest of the world zone is a zone that is specified for customers that don't match any of the other criteria. This is optional, but we're going to go ahead and add plus. And if you're outside of California, I'm going to charge a higher flat rate. The next tab you have is Shipping Options. This is where you can specify shipping options. You can enable a shipping calculator on the cart page. We'll leave that checked. You can choose to hide shipping costs until an address is entered. That's going to be up to your personal preference. Your shipping destination, I'm going to leave this at default to customer billing address because that makes the most sense. Shipping classes can be used to group products of similar type and manage the shipping rates. So if you are selling items that were very heavy and very light, you might want to have different flat rates. I'm going to go ahead and set up a shipping class. Once you click the Add Shipping Class, you'll have a new shipping class. This is going to be individual cupcakes. I'm going to have the description be the same, and I'm going to then add an additional shipping class. This is going to be a party platter. I'll click Save Shipping Classes. Now, I'm not going to be able to do anything with this because I have not created any sort of products yet, so we'll come back. I need to assign shipping classes to products, but we'll come back once we start creating some products. The Checkout tab is where you can customize the options related to checkout. You can choose to enable the use of coupons or not. We'll leave this checked because I want to show you how to make coupons eventually. You can also calculate coupon discounts sequentially. This is obviously a personal preference depending on how you want to have your coupons processed. During the checkout process, you can choose to enable guest checkout or not. I'll leave this checked. And it's important to note that if you have an SSL certificate for your online shop, you want to make sure that Force Secure Checkout is checked. We'll leave this unchecked for now. Down in the Checkout Pages section, you can choose the default pages for the cart, the checkout page, and the terms and conditions. It is important to note that you should always have terms and conditions if you're selling anything. We don't have a terms and conditions page for our website, but we certainly should create one. I'll leave this blank because I have nowhere to send a person for now, but we'll eventually create a terms and conditions page. The checkout endpoints are the URLs when various actions are performed by the user. You need to provide unique endpoints for each action. In most cases, the default parameters are just fine, but if you wanted to change those, you certainly could do this here. The Payment Gateways section is a crucial setting for creating an online shop. In this section, you can choose the payment methods for your customers. In the free version of WordPress, you have these 4 payment gateways specified. You can add more by purchasing add-ons to Woocommerce. You can also change the order of the available payment methods by simply dragging them around and reordering how they appear for your user. Currently, I only have PayPal and check payments enabled. I'm going to also enable cash on delivery. I can do that by clicking and then simply click Enable Cash on Delivery. You can also change the title or the description or any instructions that you want to. And you can enable shipping methods for this particular item. I'm just going to click Save Changes so that cash on delivery is going to become an option for me. I'm going to go back to Checkout Options, and you can see that now cash on delivery has been checked. I'm going to put Direct Bank Transfer down at the bottom, and I'm going to click Save Changes. If you wanted to customize any of these other settings or further refine them, you can click on the sub-tabs that are available under Checkout. The Account tab is where you can specify the account settings. Woocommerce needs to know where to send customers when they perform certain account-related tasks. The My Account page should go to the My Account page. This is really the only option that makes sense for this setting. Enable registration is where you can choose to enable registration on the checkout page, or you could have the person register on the My Account page. I'll leave this at the defaults. You can display returning customer login reminder on the checkout page. I think that's helpful, so I'll leave that checked. And you can choose to automatically generate a username from the customer email. This is something that I like to do, so I'm going to leave that checked. I do not like to automatically generate customer passwords because I find that it's too hard for them to remember them. The My Account endpoints are the pages that you want a user to go to when they click or when they are directed to a various page. Again, I'm just going to leave these at the default settings. I'll click Save Changes. The other option that we're going to look at right now is the email option. From this section, you can customize various email options for your e-commerce website. It is important that you enter in a valid email so that you get notifications on new orders, cancel orders, or failed orders. If you wanted notification for any of these other settings, you would need to add an email here as well. You can obviously update any of these settings, and you can do that by clicking the little gear icon to the right, which will allow you to configure any of these settings. The next thing I want to look at under the email setting is the email sender options. The from name is taken from the name that you used when you set up your website. I'm going to change this to say Sprinkle This Cupcakes. I don't want to use the shortened version of STC. Then I'm going to change the from address. I'm going to have it be delish@stc.com. For the email template, you can actually set up an email template. This is what your customer will see when they actually receive correspondence from you. If you click this link right here, another window is going to open and it's going to show you what your email template looks like. It's nice to customize this so that it's branded with your logo and your colors. We're going to go ahead and do that now. The first setting is where I want to specify the header image. I need to incorporate a URL of the image. In order to do this, you're going to need to access your media library so that you can get the URL. I'm going to open this in a separate tab, and I'm going to go down to the image that I want to use. I'm going to copy the URL field right here, and I'm going to go back to the email settings and I'm going to paste in this URL. Then I'm going to change the footer text. By default, this is actually branded with some WooCommerce related text. I'm just going to put the name of my company sprinkle this cupcakes. I'm going to change the base color. I don't want to use the blue, but I would prefer to use the burgundy that we're using throughout the site. So I'm going to change this to the hex value for the burgundy color. The other colors seem okay, so I'll leave those. I'm going to click Save Changes. And now if I come down to this area and preview my email template, you can see that the email template is now branded to my website. This looks much better, and I prefer this to the default settings. The final tab is where you can specify API settings. These are used by shipping methods and payment gateways. The API is for developers to use. You can access and store data from outside WordPress, and this is beyond the scope of what we're doing in this class, but you could certainly look this up and find out more information if it's applicable to you. Alright, now you have a general overview of what the Woocommerce settings are. We haven't changed too many of these, but I wanted you to get familiar with where you could find the various settings. As we go through and develop our website, we'll come into this area and modify some of the settings as necessary. If you need to get further information, I would direct you to the Woocommerce Docs area on the Woocommerce website so that you can get the specific information you need for your store.